You going?
It said it started streaming, but I don't know how to tell. It says it's still offline.
Okay, so, well, this should have a green and yellow line. There it is, green line.
There we go. So that means we from now
we
are
have been going. No, like from a long time ago.
From the time that I figured out how to push
the
button.
Yeah. So you hit the button and now we are all there. And we're still green. We have like
hey
12 seconds of green.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Slide over. There you go.
Okay, so we have been home since last night, and the only reason that we're home is we're getting everything fixed up for the renters. And first off, what we wanted to talk about was how important it is to take a trial run, a maiden voyage, the first tiny little trip, not just a 3-day trip, but like an extensive trip, you know? Because what happens is if you take a 2 or 3 day trip, you never run out of laundry, you never run out of food, and you never have to fill up your vehicle. If you go for 3 weeks, it gives you enough time to get cranky. It gives your spouse enough time to get cranky. Your kids get cranky. Your pets get cranky. And then you all get past that stage and it starts to be really fun.
I never got cranky. What are you talking about?
That's right.
Right.
You didn't.
Right. So.
Hey guys. So the point is, it's like if you're doing a preparedness pack. All you really need to do is take a backpack, fill it with stuff, and go for a camping trip for a week. And you'll find that if you take a piece of paper and write down the things that you find that you needed, then when you go home, you fill out your pack up with those stuff, and it's the perfect 72-hour kit prepper bug out bag because you actually went and had the experience doing it. So last week, what was happening was that we were losing our minds. The kids were losing their minds, and
they lost our minds too.
They lost our minds too. It was so rough. We had been on the road for 2 weeks, and we had been staying at RVs, and then we were staying at my sister's. And the expense was killing us so that we felt like we couldn't ever stop anywhere. And so the kids never got out of the vehicle. We hadn't been doing any school up to that point because we were stressed out about the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were just constantly doing other things.
Yeah.
I mean,
so we weren't RVing necessarily. We were stressed out about
work.
Trying
to work. Mm-hmm.
And we're like, we got to find Wi-Fi. We got to find Wi-Fi. We need to work.
Speaking of work, I've got to go. Probably. Yeah.
I love you.
Hi, everybody. It was good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Is he here?
Yes, he would be here.
So right now, John is taking our big, beautiful Fireview wood stove out and taking it over to his dad's house.
In pieces.
Okay, so Hughes net dish for internet on the road. Great for uploading and all you need. Really, Chris? Hughes net dish. Okay, don't let me forget that, Chris. But when the broadcast ends, or could you email me at dirtpatcheaven@gmail.com and tell me that again? Because the comments will scroll and I'll lose track of it. So anyway, what I wanted to go over, I made this big long list on my whiteboard over there so that I remember what to talk about. Because we will still be living in our RV while we're here at the house. Because all I'm doing is cleaning the house. I don't want the kids in the house. I don't want to be in the house. And so we're still going to be living in the RV this whole time. We don't have hookups. We're still using the RV for everything it needs to be used for. We're sleeping in it. And we find that we sleep really well. And that we don't eat as much. And the biggest difference has been once we got past that initial hurdle where we were kind of trying to ignore the kids in the RV, we figured they would just think it was fun to bounce back and forth in the RV and to sleep in the RV at night. It would be like a little playhouse all the time. And so we kind of assumed they'd take care of themselves and they'd have a good time. This is not the case. Once we had that live stream where I was so frustrated and you could see the kids bouncing off the walls in the background in that hotel, while we were on a little extra business trip leg where we were trying to see a particular place and we couldn't take the RV. I really had to knuckle down and I had to say, this is what we're going to do unless it makes the kids miserable. So how can we make this less miserable for the kids? Hey, Sharon. And so this is what I did. I knuckled down. I said, we have to do school every day. And as soon as we're on the road, we start school. And so what it's turned out to be is that Kaya has her school done in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And then she'll take her coloring book or her little Etch-a-Sketch, and she'll go sit with John in the front and do up her seatbelt. I'll stay in the back with Paige. Now, that's not because she needs to be doing more schoolwork than Kaya. It's because she likes to stare out the window, and she feels frustrated because I'm making her do school. Hey, Sugar Run. And so, difference in personalities. Kaya can see the end game very well. She's like, when I finish school, I can go do what I want. She understands that. Paige does not understand that. She gets really emotional and tries to just slow her way down through it. And so usually it takes Paige 4 or 5 hours to do her school, and she doesn't do that much more than Kaya, which is fine though. The point of that is that at that point the girls are separated. They're not poking at each other. They're not fighting with each other. They're not fighting over the same toy. Instead, Kaya's playing with her toy, and Paige is doing school with me. She's getting alone time with me, which she really craves. She craves to have my attention and alone time with me, and so we're interacting. There's no loser here. Hey, Little White House, how are ya? Good to see ya. Okay, so Mother of Many Waters. Yes, there are places with free Wi-Fi. The problem is it can take a significant amount of time to upload a video, and what happens is that any time that we stop for gas or for Wi-Fi or anything else, and we're not actually parking there, this is what we have found that we do. We have the girls run laps. If we're not in a safe place where they can actually be on grass or anything, we have them run laps around the RV. It works very, very well. Paige wears out a lot faster than Kaya does, so then she walks laps. And if we're in a place where there's a park, we have them run across the field to a destination at the end and then run back. And we have them do that for the whole length of time that we're parked. And the thing I don't like as much about that is that it means that's a time that if I'm sitting there doing Wi-Fi, I may not have time to interact with them and go run. Last time we did, we went and saw Woolen Mills in Pendleton. And they had a big open field, and I went and played chase with them, and it was super fun. But we don't do very well stopping at places like Starbucks and McDonald's and Walmart's. It doesn't work well. For one thing, a lot of times it's a congested traffic area. The girls can't really get out and play and do things. And for another thing, it can be very warm in those areas. And a lot of times I have to physically be in the building in order to have the Wi-Fi be strong enough for it to actually allow things to upload. So we're still working on that one. It doesn't mean we can't figure it out, but right now our priority has kind of been to have the girls feel like we're paying attention to them and we're not just kind of pushing them off to the side, if that makes sense. Hey, Becky, and then West Hill. Paige sounds like my older son. Yeah, I think it's common for one child to just kind of drag their feet a little bit. But in this situation, she has nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and what she really craves is my attention. And so, like I said, we both win. Hey, Home Place Journal. All right, psychology and sociology studies had easy rats living in enough room. They were polite. When rats were compressed in smaller places, there was greater. See? Yes, and some McDonald's do have playgrounds, and that is a good point. Hey, Eric. I hope it came back up. Let's see. Well, it looks like it's struggling just a little bit, Eric. Hopefully it'll pull back up. So I will keep going with what I was talking about. The nicest thing, we've never let our kids use a lot of technology, but it's been even nicer that we haven't had any music. We haven't had any temptation of YouTube distracting mom. We haven't had any temptation of music distracting dad or anything like that. And so the whole time that we've been in the RV, we've been talking to each other. We haven't been doing a lot of reading stories. It's still a little too loud in there for that kind of thing. But it has helped us to focus in on the things that we really care about. So I think it's been fantastic. No movies, no loud music, just conversation. And but until we found a way to keep ourselves busy in the RV, there was a lot of fighting. Not more fighting than in our big house, though. What we found was that when we got home last night and there was more space, I started to yell just to be heard because I knew the kids were in another room. And I was getting frazzled because there was so much that I needed to do, so much space I needed to cover to get things done, that I was getting snippy. Whereas in the RV, I found that I wasn't snippy. Everybody was within close range. I could be stern at times, but not snippy, not angry. Let's see. So, what were some other things? So, the difference between a big space and a small space that I found, this was also very helpful because what we're planning on doing is when we get back and we don't have rent, or when we get, not when we get back, when we're done with our trip, which is supposed to be 6 months, when we're done with it, we want to come back to our property and build a tiny house. And living in the RV is testing our premise that that would be easier. I love the little kitchen in the RV. It's super easy to keep clean in. It's super easy to cook in. It's really easy to keep things tidy and clean in a very short amount of time. Now, I think I would love it even more if we could park somewhere and we could start a real life. And because of that, I think that a tiny house will totally work for us. Yes, a blow-up beach ball would be super fun, Sharon. Right now, the girls are 7 and 9. Right now, one thing that really surprised us, I thought that I would be really sad that I didn't have more space in the RV for storage. And what I have found is that half of what I have in the RV needs to come out because we just didn't use it. And so it turns out that the space, the way that they worked the storage and everything in the RV is perfect. I'm taking out 3/4 of the books. I'm only leaving 1/4 of the books in. Most of those will be the girls' actual physical school books. I'm only going to take 3 books for myself, and they're all about building. I have one for cob building, one for straw bale building, and one that is house plans from the cob house, the tiny cob tiny tumbleweed house. And so those are the 3 books I'm going to take, because what I have found is that even though we're in the RV and it's supposed to be lessening things, because I actually work in the RV, that has not been the case. I still have like at least a 4-hour day of editing that I need to do every day. And because of that, I don't have any time for reading. I'm still being a mom, I'm homeschooling, and I'm still working. And so I took all these books thinking that I'd have all this time to be able to do some studying, and I haven't had any. So I'm probably leaving 10 books in the RV, and they're very solid books. Most of them, again, are the girls' school books. Let's see. Raised in a large ranch house and lived 6 months in a camper. While a new ranch house is built, then move back into an enormous house. Everything changes from big to small and back to big again. What about a yurt? Sharon, yes, there is the yurt. I think the reason that we went against the yurt was because of the cost. I think like a minimum for a yurt is about $10,000. And we can build a tiny house for a lot less than that, according to the research we've done so far. We would probably start very small, and work really hard on doing it right, and then maybe put additions on if we felt like we needed it to be bigger. Are you considering cob and such for the tiny house or one on wheels? We would be considering something. Well, the thing is, I have built with cob before, and I recognize that it has some shortcomings. One of them is that cob is exceptionally heavy. You're mixing water, clay, sand, and straw together. And John cannot help with something like that because it's just too heavy. Sorry if I keep scratching my nose, but it really itches. Let's see. So I'm doing the research just because I want to understand the commonalities between the different methods and the differences, so that I can put our particular soil and climate into perspective. Hey, Bonsai. Let's see, activity for moms and girls, Play-Doh. That would be super fun. Do you use wheat flour? We can't use wheat flour or any kind of flour like that. You'll need additions when the girls become teens and the hormones kick in. Well, I don't know. The thing is, when I was a kid, we lived in a single wide trailer. while my parents were building their house, and we were off grid while that was happening. During the coldest winter in our area, it was 47 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. And we were living, so there were 3 girls in a room that was 8 by 8. And we all shared a closet. And then in the next room, there were 4 boys. They were much younger, so it was a little easier. And that room was, I think, 9 by 9. And we had an outdoor toilet because we didn't have plumbing, and we had a wood-burning stove. And I had to haul all the water that came back to the house. And honestly, they were some of the happiest times I can remember with my sisters. We had futons that were like this wide, and they folded up into a chair, but there wasn't any wood on them. They were just foam, and they would fold down and out into a bed, and then we would sleep on that with our own individual sleeping bags. And we were really silly. And how old was I? I was 15. And we moved out of that house when I was 17 or something into the big house. And I remember transitioning from the tiny trailer to the big house was extremely disorienting for me. I missed my sisters. And I felt like I was so distanced from everybody in the house that because I could get away, I did get away, and then I became lonely. And so for my own experience, I really enjoyed sharing that space with my sisters, with my siblings. And I started to get really depressed when we moved into the big house. We'd always lived in small houses before that. We'd always shared rooms. And so having that space was very disorienting for me. But that may not be the case for everybody. That was just the case for me. Have you read about the type of home built into the ground conserves energy big time? Yes, the Wofati. In fact, we just went and visited a Wofati over at Paul Wheaton's, and it was amazing. And it was one of the prettiest houses I've ever seen. And he wants a couple to come and live in it for a year, but John is not big into homesteading. And so I don't think it would be a happy lifestyle for him to go. If we went to Paul's and lived for a year in his Wofati, I think my husband would lose his mind. He's not a farm boy. We live in a 495-foot square house built in a pole shed. We're now a family of 6, 4 kids and 5 and under. Hey, Alicia, so what do you think of it? I don't think there's anything wrong with living in a small space. If you have it well organized, I think it's much easier. For me, it's much easier not to have to yell down the stairs or bring laundry up and down the stairs. Our last house was 600 square feet, and my laundry facilities were in the kitchen. And so I could do a load of laundry, and then I could finish cooking breakfast. And I really liked that. Yes, Dolly. I think the exercise thing is the thing. It's not the size of the RV that is hard. What's hard is if the RV is the only place you have. I think if you're a really active family in a very gentle climate, it would be easy. For us, living in the RV during the winter would be a big struggle, not just because of heating, but because of the inability to get in and out and have motion. For me, that has been the hardest thing. Once we figured out that the girls just needed more adult interaction and activities where we were interacting with each other rather than holed off by ourselves. Once we figured that out, what has now become kind of the big deal is motion. We need some motion. Hey, Minuteman. Yeah, -40 was really, really cold. Yeah, West Hill, I totally understand. A big house, we're at 2,800 square feet with our garage, and it feels like a mansion, and it feels like I can never keep it clean. Anybody with OCD or needs to be in control needs to think long and hard about living in a small place with more than one person, especially with active children. So I feel I am agreeing and disagreeing with you, Beth, because I do not have OCD, but I want to say I think one of the reasons I have tendencies towards OCD is because my house is too big. Does that make sense? Because I've never been somebody that wanted to be in charge of everything all the time. I've never been like that. When I started to have problems with that was when I started to take too much on and my house was too big. And so I started to feel like I didn't want people to come into an area because I had just got it clean. And I was so tired of spending my life cleaning and paying to, I'm paying for this big box. And now all I do is clean this big box. And so, I've actually taken the test to see if I'm OCD because a lot of people think that I am, but I'm not. I don't have any of the tendencies of somebody who's OCD. What I do have is that I have been burned out by paying a mortgage for a house that's too big, only to turn around and then have to pay to fix a house that my kids are destroying, or that I keep having to buy a new vacuum because we have so much carpet that my vacuum runs out. And so I blame it on the house. If that sounds horrible, I blame it on the house. Because now that we moved into the tiny RV, I'm so much more mellow. I'm so much more mellow, and I'm spending so much more time with the kids, and it's been so nice. I have absolutely loved it, and I sleep better at night. I don't know why, but I sleep a lot better at night. Needs to have a wraparound porch, makes a big difference. I agree, Home Place Journal. Having outside space that is comfortable and happy to be in, so that really all you're using your house for is for cooking and sleeping, that's really, really nice. Let's see. Live 90 days in overwinter camp, 90 days of Oregon rain beating on your head. Yeah, and see, I think you have to kind of be choosy about your space that you're wanting to be in a tiny house or where you're wanting to live in an RV. We're being this is a big deal. We're being very, very careful about what area we drive through according to the weather. Okay? We went in the fall because we knew that the heat would be down enough because we don't have any kind of air conditioning in the RV, and also our refrigerator doesn't work. And so we couldn't be going into 90-degree weather because anything, even fruits and vegetables, would be going bad in the RV and we would be miserable. And so we chose to travel a little bit north while we waited for the weather to cool down even more. And then we're not going to travel through the south at all until we get into the winter. And we're trying to be very careful and very conscious of how we do that so that we're not locked up in the RV together. And I think, yes, that really makes a difference in whether or not a tiny house or an RV living is going to really make your family happy. Let's see. You have to be able to live in harmony with one another. You need to be a family team. We do everything together. The kids need to feel included. You have to be organized and plan things to do. Exactly, you do. You have to be on top of things so that, and it's been such a blessing. That's what a lot of people worry about, is that they're disconnected from their kids. Everybody's isolated in their own part of the house. So when you come down into a tiny space for a little while, you have a really extreme poop or get off the pot moment in which you're like, oh, I don't like these people. I don't like these people. I don't like how this is working. I want to be right. I want to be right. I want to be right. And they're stepping on my toes. And you have that moment. And the whole family has it at the same time. But if you can get rid of stuff, so that a lot of times it's the stuff around you that's making you fight with each other. Well, I want it to be there. No, I want it to be there. Well, I want to keep this. Well, I want you to get rid of it. Once you kind of have everybody go through their stuff and say, okay, is there anything we can still get rid of, so we have a little bit more space so that we can find the things that we want. Like right now, card games are really important to us. Now in our big house, card games were not important to us, but we never played games, which was one of the reasons we wanted to move into the RV. We wanted to spend more time together. And so I think it takes a lot of family counseling. For me, it took a lot of scripture study. I was really feeling like, what have I done to my family? Is this wise? Are we going to be getting along together? And I just felt like I really needed to be in a lot of prayer, and I needed to be in the scriptures a lot. And what it came down to is I needed to be able to separate myself from the other people and say, I am me, they are them, and regardless of what they're doing, I am not them, and I can love them because I'm only responsible as far as my behavior towards them. And what we started working on was that when we talk to each other, we make eye contact every time. If we're apologizing to someone, we make eye contact. If we tell somebody that we love them, we're making eye contact. We're working very hard on manners and on kind communication between everybody, that we're not going to be in too big of a rush, so big of a rush that we cannot ask calmly and kindly and think about our actions, because we're in such a small space that one tiny motion can cause hurt feelings. It could cause somebody to get hurt. And so we're working very hard on very deliberately being exceptionally polite, and it's been fantastic. The girls have stopped fighting with each other, and they have stopped acting as a parent at each other. Up to this point, this has been my weakness as a parent. One of my weaknesses anyway, is that I would assign the girls to kind of keep an eye on each other. So instead of me being the mom and keeping an eye on them, when they were out of my sight, I would tell them to keep an eye on each other. And so they'd come back and tattle on each other. And what we have come down to in the RV is that I've said, okay, I'm the mom. I will be the mom. I promise. I will stop asking you to be the mom. You're the child and I love you. And she's the child and I love her. And you can talk to each other as kind sisters. If you need something, you can come to me, and it doesn't need to be tattling. And if you do tattle, you're going to go and make eye contact with your sister, and you're going to apologize to her for tattling. And it's worked really, really well. And it's kind of like all of our brains are starting to change because we can't walk away from each other. We need to just be nice. Oh, honey, you're there. I hope John can keep up with this because I'm not reading most of these. What does Mr. Dirt do if he doesn't like homesteading? Well, recently he's just kind of kept body and soul together. While I've been editing videos, he is making sure that the girls are safe. He does all the repairs on the RV himself up to this point, and so he saves us a lot of money that way. He's trying to keep up on the Patreon. He needs to make a Patreon video once a week. And sometimes he answers emails, that kind of thing. But as his back gets better, we're hoping that he will feel more comfortable physically, and that we're really hoping he can go back to school while we're doing this for 6 months, so that when we're done at the 6-month point, we won't be relying on just the YouTube and the Patreon anymore. That would be really nice. Thought you're going north into Nevada and points each. Did I miss first minutes of running back to Idaho? So we took our maiden voyage. We wanted to be very responsible. A lot of people have accused us of being irresponsible, but we've done this very responsibly. First off, we have a renter for our house. And so a little bit before our renter was coming, we got most of the house finished. And then we went for 3 weeks up into Oregon and Washington, just to see how the RV experience would be. Do we really want to live in this for 6 months? And when we get back, do we really want to build a tiny house? And so it was our maiden voyage. We wanted to test it so that we had enough time to make other plans if we hated it. We would still have kept the renters in our house because we don't make enough to make our mortgage payment. But if nothing else, we probably would have just gone a little bit further south where it's not as cold in the winter, and we would have just parked the RV out in BLM land or something like that, is kind of what Mr. Dirt was thinking. Yeah, Sharon, that's true. My husband does not like physical activities unless it's like wakeboarding, snowboarding, that kind of thing. Yes. Okay, I'm trying to get everything read up. Beth, have a friend who wanted to do homesteading, but his wife was so on the idea. He insisted they do it. She lasted 5 years and left it. Both are not on the same page. It may not work. We have been homesteading ever since we got married. And the way it turned out was that in the beginning, John wasn't real excited about it. I was willing to do all the work because I just felt that strong about it and I loved it. And up until this point, I did all the work. And he provided what income needed to come in for it. I tried to keep that minimal by having the homestead make its own money. And what it came down to, not necessarily that I burnt out, but that our property is too big for me to keep up by myself. And that's really what it came down to, especially after John got hurt. What happened was that the money I had been making had been what was paying on YouTube, was what was paying for the homestead to make improvements to make it easier so I could do it myself. But when John got hurt, his income, which had been keeping the home going, was gone. He was hurt. And so the money from YouTube needed to transition to paying for us to live and eat and the mortgage, and it just didn't make enough to do all that plus pay for the mortgage. So that's why we had to make the decision. Do we take the leap and go on the road for 6 months and make some really fun videos and kind of get our family's head together about, do we want a homestead? Do we want to be in a big house? Do we want to have a mortgage? And so our plans again are that once we're done with this trip and come back from Florida, we're going to put a tiny house on a tiny little plot of land that we already own and let our renters pay our mortgage for us. Does that make sense? Thanks, Bonsai. Let's see, BC Trucker. I like physical activity that involves bacon. Going to the store for bacon, cooking bacon, eating bacon, talking about bacon. Amen. Let's see. So was there anything else on my list? So along the line of being able to have outdoor activities and outdoor space when you live in an RV is, do you guys remember what we used to play when we were kids? I know that I used to play it. Okay, so I used to do jump rope. I used to roller skate. We played jacks. We had hopscotch, but mostly we did jump rope. And remember how, you could run for a really long time without getting winded and you just played outside? So that is what we have done. We went and spent about $10 at the dollar store, and I got both of the girls jumping ropes. We got a package of jacks. We got a package of marbles. We got magnetic checkers and magnetic chess. Again, dollar store is win for the team. Wonderful. Let's see. And so what that comes down to is I'm going to teach the girls how to play these games, and motion for me in the RV has been a really, 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 really big deal. I'm losing it. I'm a farmer. The way that I have always got my exercise was I would go out and walk the farm. I would go take care of my work outside. And then when I was spinning and knitting, you guys would see I was always bouncing like this. It's because I was on an exercise ball in order to help pull my core in. And I was always spinning, so I was always moving. Now I'm in this RV, and I'm not moving. And I'm not fitting in my clothes anymore. It's a big deal. And I'm getting stiff. And so, Amy, I like that you pointed that out. I love that you pointed that out. Yes. So my dream was the homesteading, and it turned out to be too much of a burden on my family after John got hurt. His dream has always been to live somewhere that there's no winter and to be able to be next to a lake. He loves water. Lake Powell is his favorite place in the world. And so now that we have this opportunity, if we're not tied down by a mortgage, why shouldn't we go do some of the stuff that John has always wanted to do? And that's the point of us doing this. So thank you for pointing that out, Amy. Okay, so this is the part of the not getting enough motion thing that I'm going to be doing. Right now while we're home, I went and got a little stamp card thing at the local gym, and I'm going every day to go work out for an hour. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I get in the habit of actually using something that could be called a workout rather than just using my daily activity. And that way, when we're on the road, I will also have a jump rope so that the girls and I can jump rope together. And I'm going to get some exercise bands because they're not heavy, they don't take up a lot of space, and I'm going to look up some workouts that I can do, and I'm going to do some interval training. And the reason for this is just I need to get my blood moving. And you know how your digestion doesn't work as well when you're not moving, like your digestion gets sluggish and things just don't. I'm not saying like constipation, but just like your belly doesn't feel flat and it doesn't feel like things are moving efficiently. And like you're just sluggish, and I don't like that feeling. So switching from farmer to RV, I'm having to actually pick up a workout regimen. I think it's regimen. Let's see, Beth. After my husband was disabled and couldn't do long distance running, we invested in an awesome treadmill. Yes. And we're hoping to be in places where we can just walk outside. I hate to be inside and work out unless I'm doing it with people. I love to exercise with other people so that it feels like I'm multitasking, like I'm getting good people moments in plus getting my motion. I don't like machines. I prefer to have more larger motion. But for some people, I think a treadmill is awesome. It would be hard for me to get it in the RV. Yeah, so suburban hillbilly, not much of a winter in Georgia, but the summers are brutal. Exactly, which is why we're being very careful about where we're driving when. We're not trying to like punish ourselves by being in the RV. We want to be to places that are very moderate so that we're not needing to use a lot of heating and we're not needing to use a lot of cooling because we don't have either. Just more gorgeous to love. My husband is very generous that way. He has politely turned his head when he's seen that, yes, I do not fit in my pants anymore, and I'm only wearing, let's see if I can show you. I'm only wearing stretch pants now. Yoga. Yes, Sharon, I went and I did yoga last night at 8:30, so I didn't get home till 9:30. And I'm really glad I did yoga because I'm not sore today, but I think if I'd done anything else, I would be really sore. Okay, suburban. Oh, I'm listening. It's great if you live near a national-based fitness center because you can use your membership. And Beth, I would do that if we were stopped in more places that were close to a fitness center. I would. Right now, it's kind of interesting because with our hosts, a lot of them are rural, and a lot of the Walmarts are rural, and everything has been very small. We haven't been to. We're avoiding big cities. But my sister had a thought. She said a lot of fitness centers will allow you to have a day pass, and it could cost you maybe $5. And so I might do that if it wasn't more than $5. And I do have a yoga mat, and I have a book that I'm taking. The girls actually love to do yoga, and I got another 2 mats from my dad. So we're hoping to do some yoga, and I 100% agree. I love yoga. Okay, you are bone thin. I have clothes that will let you expand. I live in an 18-wheeler for 7 months, gained 35 pounds. Right? I don't know if I've gained any weight. I think I've just kind of slumped out. Like everything is not very toned. Oh, I'm missing some of these. I like wearing caps, not using them. Helios, I missed the conversation. And I owe you a cap still. We got home. I should show you. Okay, guys, so Helios is one of our friends. That's one of the people that's been our friend for a really long time. And he is on our Patreon. And I make him a hat once a month. And I forgot to take it with me on our Maiden's Voyage. So this is the yarn that I made for his next hat. So it does exist, Helios. It's just taking me a while to get to it. And then we have another patron on Patreon, and I'm making her a sweater. And this is the yarn that I'm making for her sweater, but I need to dye it. It's going to be silver birch, that kind of grayish blue color that was really pretty when we did our Kickstarter. So I've got all her yarn to dye still, and I have to do that before we leave. I'm never going to catch up. Okay. Using a pressure cooker. E. Cummings has been reprimanded. Okay. Huh. Then they want a membership and they keep records if they pop into multiple songs. Okay, let's see. Using the pressure cooker. So I love the pressure cooker. It's worked really well. I do need to talk about meals. That would be a good one all by itself. Okay, so with the meals, I have so many that I want to kind of split off, but maybe since it's a live show, maybe a lot of people won't get this far through it, so I'll just say it in another smaller, better video. So with the cooking, paper versus plastic first, like paper plates or real cutlery and plates and stuff. So when you use paper plates, you have a ton of garbage. When you use real cups and saucers and everything, it slows you down a little bit in your cleanup, but it takes up less space. You're not having to throw as much trash away. So I personally really prefer just real plates and knives and forks, but only as many as you have people. So only 4 plates if you have 4 people, only 4 bowls if you have 4 people. What I didn't take enough of was pots. I have 1 mixing bowl, which was perfect. I don't really need more than that. But I took the pressure cooker, and I also took a cast iron pan and 1 cookie tray. And the only thing I really wish that I had taken that was more was I should have brought a small saucepan, because then while I'm having the potatoes steam pressure cooking, I could have been making the gravy with the saucepan. And I am finding, aren't they pretty? Yes, thank you. They are pretty, aren't they? When are you going back on the road? We will be going back on the 10th because on the 28th we have our woofer showing up, and she will be helping me get everything tidied up, and the inside of the house will be done. The renters will be in on the 1st of October, and then our woofer and I will be working on the outside property just to put everything to bed before we leave. She leaves on the 10th, and so that's when we'll leave. But we have a lot left to do on the RV, kind of ish. The rear seal dried out and broke and leaked, and so we need to have that replaced, which is going to be about $500. And then we have, John really wants to change the gearing in the back so that we have an overdrive, because we've been running at 3,000 RPM the whole way at 7 miles a gallon, and our top speed is 55 miles an hour. And so he wants to change the gearing, but it's prohibitively expensive, so I don't know if he's going to go ahead with that. It's all just very interesting. It's been exceptionally reliable. Oh my goodness, what a great little RV. I'm so in love with it. I shouldn't say that. I'm not in love with an item. That's inappropriate. But I am charmed. I am charmed by this little RV and how hard it works and what a good job it does for us. I'm just charmed. Thanks, Sharon. How is RV getting back up from Oregon into Idaho Highlands overheating? Is John here? I didn't see him for a second. So we did not get vapor lock, but we did not have any days in the 90s. We did get hot enough just coming into Boise that we started to have some temperature creep. And that was when the rear end was leaking oil. And so we do need to get that seal fixed before we get back out on the road. Sorry, not an overdrive, Mr. Dirt says. Not overdrive, just higher gearing so that we're not running at 3,000 RPM. We'd like to be at, what, honey? 2,000? 1,500? Okay. Well, I couldn't tell, honey. Hey! Go for Green Living's here. How are ya? Okay, is there anything else I have missed? Well, everybody is saying hi to Daniel. Another thing that I've really loved about the kids in the RV is the correction of bad behavior is very quick, and it doesn't have to be yelling. It can just be, pardon me, an explanation of why it wasn't good behavior, an example of what good behavior would have been, and then they apologize, we recorrect it, and everybody goes on and is happy and feels valid. Not angry correction like yelling, but valid explanation and kindness, which has been really nice. The hosts have been amazing. Our first leg of the trip up, we didn't have any. We had one host, didn't we? We had Darcy, and he was amazing. It was amazing to see him and Noreen, and they were fantastic. But the rest of the trip up, we did not have any hosts. And or no, we did. Lisa. Why do I get confused? She had us in Riggins, and that was fantastic. We didn't stay overnight, but she fed us. And so anywhere that we had hosts, it was amazing. And anywhere that we didn't have hosts, it was really, really hard. Never underestimate the value of a friendly handshake. And just to sit down and relax for a minute and just to meet some other humanity. Also, it saved us a huge amount of money. Let's not forget that. By going and having hosts along the way, which were friends, people that watch our channel, we saved, we spent 2/3 less by having a host, because it meant that whether we go out to eat or whether we go to the grocery store, we tested it. We only ate out twice in the 3 weeks, but we spent as much going into the grocery store to get food as we did going out to eat. And the reason for that is that we're paleo. We couldn't go in and buy macaroni. We were getting a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. We were getting a rotisserie chicken and string cheese and that kind of thing. And that adds up really quick when you're doing it 3 meals a day. And so having a host where we could park so that we weren't paying the $30 for an RV fee, and where we weren't having to drive quite so far in one stretch. The girls weren't getting so burned out. You guys just don't know how much the hosting has meant. And for any of you out there, you guys know each other. If you know you're going to be traveling, I say, why not ask friends that you're already familiar with if you can do this kind of crashing, because we've had some amazing videos. We've taken amazing videos. We have such brilliant viewers. And so some of our most fun videos have just been of our viewers' gardens, and that, or maybe if not our viewers' gardens, but of a garden that our viewer knows, this kind of thing. And so I think this would be really fun. Anybody that we stayed at, we would totally welcome you to come and stay overnight at our place if you're ever doing something like this. I think that more than about 3 days starts to be intrusive. We've only ever stayed overnight, and we try to keep it that way and not ask, because we do feel like, people are still working, and it's hard for the host to feed you every meal. And so generally what's happened is we've parked overnight, and our host has made us dinner, which has been so wonderful and so kind and so much fun. And I think that isn't a huge burden, but I think if we were trying to come and park for 3 days at a time and expecting to be fed every meal, that's unreasonable. So usually, I don't think we've ever stopped and had breakfast with any of our hosts, except for Paul Wheaton. We did for him, but we try really hard to keep it to one night. And if they offer to cook us dinner, we love it, but the rest of the meals we cook ourselves. So, wondering if there was some hidden cost people didn't expect. No, I don't think there's any hidden costs. I think if you're used to buying groceries, you will kind of be able to anticipate what the expenses are. You already know what your miles per gallon are. And most of our stops have been $30 a night for an RV hookup. That's been very standard. And there haven't been any other big expenses. But I would say go on a maiden voyage. Go for 3 weeks and test it. If you're planning on being in an RV longer than that and you want to kind of live in it for a long time, go for 3 weeks and then come back. Because by the 3rd day, I recognized that I needed a laundry hamper. I couldn't just use a black garbage sack, because a laundry hamper breathes. So if you have anything wet in your laundry, like if a child dumps something wet in and you don't realize they did, all your clothes aren't molding. So I ended up going and getting one of those expandable laundry hampers. And I wish I had taken a laundry basket, so that I'm taking clean clothes from the laundromat, I can bring them up separate from the laundry hamper. The other thing was, it was really nice to see and test out, how many clothes should I take? How many pots and pans should I take? Did we really need a stool for them to get into the bunk, or was it always in the way? The stool was more dangerous than not having a stool. But what we have found, Paige fell out of her bed last night, because remember, we're still sleeping in the RV. She fell out of her top bunk last night and landed on her neck. And it was really scary. She was in a lot of pain. I slept with her in the house last night so that she wouldn't fall out of the bunk again. We just slept on the floor because the beds aren't here. But that's another thing. We've really struggled with the bedding situations for the girls. They're very narrow and they're not real long. And so the bottom one would be better for Paige, but when Kaya sleeps up in the top one, she's always peeing on Paige at night because she can't get out of her bunk to go potty, and she just doesn't think through it well. So the top bunk is not working. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the top bunk into a storage space only, and we're going to use the table bed for Paige, and it'll be bigger for her, and I think she'll be happier in there. And so we're going to test that out while we're still here at home. So we'll be doing that for a week and a half, or almost 2.5 weeks actually, by the time we're done. We'll be trying that out before we go back on the road, so that we really have the kinks worked out. Let's see. Let's see, Sharon. I've been very lucky. My husband and I have been married 37 years, and we're a team. I do things I don't always like, and he does the same for me. We're a team Brown. I love it. And we've met a lot of other people along the way that are very much like that. They're like polar opposites, and yet they complement each other, and it works. Bet laundry washing and drying is a problem. Yes or no? No, it's not a problem. If we only go to an RV park once a week, we can do. They always have laundry facilities. It's expensive. It costs about $3 to do one small load of wash, which is why I'm trying to be careful not to take too much laundry. And to take dark colors. I'm not changing my clothes every day as far as like my pants. I'll change my shirt, I'll change my pants, underwear, socks, that kind of thing. But the pants stay the same, the sweater stays the same, and and so far none of us have really been stinky. John really likes to take a shower every day though. He really craves that. When we're at a host, I have yet to shower. I just wait till we get to an RV park. But John really likes to shower. But it is expensive. You need metal rails on bunks. They slide under the mattress. That would be a good idea. Our problem right now isn't just that she's falling out. It's that she also can't get up into her bunk. We need to like build a ladder that is very sturdy so she can get into her bunk and also so that she can get out of the bunk easily. But the problem is she needs to be in the bottom bunk because it's longer. Kaya needs to be in the top bunk because she's shorter, but she pees on her sister every night. We just can't seem to be able to catch a break with the bedding situation. I know Mr. Dirt had a different answer, but I don't find the laundry thing to be a big deal at all. John is very much more particular about what he wears than I am. I don't mind being dirty to a certain degree as long as it's, I don't know, as long as it's not offending other people. I don't think most people would know that I wasn't showering every day. Living a Good Story is a great YouTube channel about a large family who lived in an RV for a year. That's a good question. Mr. Dirt, what is your ideal lifestyle dream? I know what it is. He wants to live on a boat in the middle of a lake. He wants to live on a houseboat. He really loves that kind of thing. I don't think he'd mind me still having a homestead as long as he could live on his boat and drink beer and play in the water all day. I think he'd be okay with that. Just flip the underwear inside out. That's why it has two sides. I don't go that far. I change the underwear. Let's say home place journal, live on a houseboat on Lake Powell. See, I got it right. See, I know my husband. So one of the other places we went to see was in Winlock, Washington, up to the Spinolution store. And so we have a video showing how the Spinolution wheels get put together. I still need to take a spinning wheel with me because I have orders that I need to be able to fill. But my hopper, I think, is going to be too big. And so I'm thinking about selling my hopper and getting the Queen Bee because she snaps down into a box that's about as big as a laptop computer. But I don't know if we're going to be able to wing that. I might just have to take a huge amount of yarn with me and just use what I've already got, make do. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. We'll have to see. A floating man cave and poop in the lake. Oh, that's gross. You guys ever brew beer? John has wanted to, but I don't let him, if that sounds horrible. You're supposed to sterilize everything before you make beer. And I don't like my husband in the kitchen if he's not going to clean up his mess. And so up to this point, I think he's made 2 batches. And he did it with those like Mr. Beer keg things. They need a homestead on the shore with the house floating. Yeah, that's true, right? Where's the St. Johns River, Cockeye? Have you seen the folks who homestead on a houseboat? They made platforms for... No, they didn't. Home Place Journal. Did they really do that? They didn't. You're pulling my leg. A homestead on a houseboat? Honestly, if you're pulling my leg, let me know because you're totally pulling my leg. Mr. Dirt, I want a submarine refitted to be self-sufficient and cruise around the Bahamas and submerge when there's a bad storm. That sounds awesome. Otherwise, treat it as a ship. Put a big pond on your property and build a floating tiny house. Yeah, that would be interesting in our area. Remember, we're in a desert. We'd actually get arrested for doing that. We're not allowed to divert water. Well, we're not allowed to retain water. You can divert water. You have to get a special permit. But you can't retain water. You can't hold it on your property. Yes, husband's idea of clean is way different than wife's. Well, and the funny thing is, when we first got married, John was a lot cleaner than me, because what he would do is he would take all his stuff that he didn't want and he would go put it in a pile in the room that he didn't use. So the rest of his house would stay really clean. But when we got married, I went and found that pile and started trying to clean it out. But the funny thing is, I was a total slob. Like, I never did dishes. I would hang up my laundry, but I would never make my bed. And I did never clean the bathroom. And so, of the two of us, I was really the slob. I think what changed was that when I started to do a lot of cooking from scratch and that kind of thing, I started to see how inefficient I was when I was dirty, if that makes sense. It had a lot to do with becoming a mom that made me like things to be really clean. And so whenever I get frustrated because I'm like, why can't you clean up after yourself and pick up your socks? I have to remember he's not the one that's been staying home all this time for it to drive him crazy. It's been me. And so I have to give him some time to kind of get used to being home more and just kind of learning the routines that we have now. Okay, previously posted Patreon link gives 404 error. Oh, that's not good. We'll have to try and figure that out. I don't know why. Home Place Journal. Yes, on Union Bay in Seattle and near Sausalito, California, people grow vegetable gardens on their houseboats. That's awesome. That is really neat. Is that true for the whole state or only the desert areas? It's true for western states. If you're talking about retaining water. In western states, we get our water from surface water for irrigation, traditionally. And so it comes from the river, it goes to canals, it goes to ditches. You're allowed free use of the water as long as you have a water right, according to how many acres you have. But you cannot hold the water on your property. So you cannot deflect it into a pond and then hold it there unless you have permission. Which is why we know some people who have dug very deep channels through their property that wind through their property and then back out so that the water can go back into the canal. And that's legal as long as people don't find out about it. Kind of. I mean, you could, but a lot of those places where it was diverted, it was kind of grandfathered in. With all due respect, we make organized piles. Yes, John, exactly. My husband he had this mountain of t-shirts in one room at the house when we got married. And I was like, why is there this when I say mountain, I don't mean little hill. I mean, it was as tall as I was. He had this mountain of t-shirts that he'd collected, and this was his t-shirt pile. And then in his electronics room, he had piles of like cords and computers and stuff like that. And the funny thing was there wasn't room for me when we got married. I'm like, okay, where am I supposed to put my stuff? So yes, he is better at, I don't know. I think he's kind of gotten used to having a wife though now. He's not as clean now as he was when we first got married. For example, we know where the dirty dishes are because they're all organized in piles. Yes, Sharon, becoming a mom changes everything. It changes everything about you, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sad, I think. I don't want to be this nagging lady that only ever worries about dishes. Yeah, when we spring clean, we just move from one pile to another, right? So no rain catchment systems like gutters draining into IBC totes. If it is from the sky, that's different. If it's when it's diverted off of the surface area. But we don't get enough rain to be able to do something like that. We don't get enough precipitation. And we have to be careful that we don't hold any water in IBC totes or anything after a certain time of year because it will expand and crack the IBC totes. And also it'll freeze in the pipes if it can't drain down and through. So all that kind of thing kind of depends on a state by state, place by place, because we have places in Idaho that don't get this cold. Northern Idaho is beautiful. It has a lot more rain than we do. I found the video. We'll send links since I can't put it here. Thank you. 101 small houseboat living free and happy on the water is great. YouTube title to look at. Thank you, Beth. Okay. The St. Johns River flows north from Central Florida to Jacksonville. Ah, I see. Are there any alligators involved in that or sharks? I'm afraid of water. See, polar opposites. John loves to live in the water. I am terrified of lake monsters. Okay, so what else did I not get to? Importance of maiden voyage, food storage, still no time to read. Okay, so anybody who thinks they're going RVing and it will mean that they have all this time to read, if you're taking children and you're not taking Game Boys and stuff like that, you might still not have time to read. That being said, we've never camped anywhere more than one night. And so I've never really had the chance to not be working to find out if I'll have time to read or do any knitting or anything like that. So far there's been no leisure time, but that might be different for a retired couple if you weren't also working out of your RV. Cockeyed. I lived on the river for about a year. That's awesome. Let's see. What else was I going to say? Oh, food storage. So what I'm going to do now that we're going to be having a little bit of storage space since Paige cannot be in that one bunk is I'm going to take 2-gallon buckets and fill them with the food storage that we'll be using. And I don't need very many. The frustration with the food storage is that the cans, like if you buy canned food, like tins, unless it's a concentrated paste like tomato paste, you don't get very many meals off of it and it's still very expensive. And then you have trash that you need to get rid of. I still much prefer to cook from scratch because for one thing, it's not as heavy if it's a dry good. All you have to do is add water. And it doesn't take up as much space because it's in its dry form, and so it less space to store it. Plus, you don't have the garbage of having to get rid of the cans. And so I do prefer to cook from scratch. The refrigeration thing is a bit of a problem right now. No refrigerator means that anything I cook we have to eat within, depending on what it is, within 6 hours. If we're really cool outside because we don't have heat in the RV, we just put on sweaters and the food stays cold. So that kind of is a little different. So we really are kind of even more off-grid than most RVers are because we don't have a fridge and we don't have air conditioning and we're not using the heating, it's been fun. That is not a complaint. It has been fun. I grew up off-grid, so not having refrigeration does not faze me at all. Let's see. Hey, Simply, how are ya? I'm excited to see Florida. Yeah. Okay, so for the food storage, honestly, we come back down to the fact that I was raised not freaking out about refrigeration. I don't buy milk, I buy cream. Cream stays better longer than milk does unrefrigerated. So I use a little bit of cream. It doesn't take very much in the girls' oatmeal in the morning. And we pour boiling water into our oatmeal and let it sit for a minute rather than cooking it, so I have one less pan. Oatmeal is very light and very filling. We have rice. We have many, many different types of beans. We have lentils, dehydrated carrots, dehydrated onions, salt, the different specialty flours. There's the Patreon. Thank you, Bonsai. And so with food storage, I'm starting to be more comfortable using the water tank. I do still like to boil the water before I let anybody drink it from the tank. And so a lot of times we'll have like a 1-gallon jug that I'll fill the girls' drinking water with during the day. And then anything that we're going to use for drinking, I'll just boil it out of the tank. Yes, I am much less stressed. And I'm actually a little more stressed now that we're home because I have all this stuff that needs to be done. But being in the RV, I've always wanted to live in a tiny space. I've wanted to see what it was like. And I've been super pleased with it. If we'd had inclement weather so that we've been like stuck in the RV too many days in a row, maybe that wouldn't have been the case. But we've been really careful about when we drive, when we stop, and what the climate and temperature is going to be like into the state that we're going into next. Let's see. Any other thoughts? I think that's all I have for tonight. It's been really nice. I would totally recommend it. I would highly recommend that if you're going to do it, get rid of the Game Boys, get rid of the electronics, get rid of the music. Ours doesn't work real well. John can turn on a little bit of Spotify for the girls that are fun songs, but we don't usually listen to them, and it can be hard to hear over the noise of the RV. And so we really haven't done that very much. And so really, we haven't been distracted from each other, and it's been exactly what we were hoping for. And but you will notice a difference from last week to this week in how stressed out I am, because we really had to get over that hump of realizing that we needed constant interaction with the girls. And I don't know what we're going to do about videos and working still, because the girls really do need that constant interaction. That is something we haven't quite figured out. It's very difficult to sit and edit videos for 12 hours a day. You burn out very quickly after a couple hours, because you stop thinking creatively. You just get burned out. And so editing for a couple hours a day is a really good thing, and then uploading when we're in port is good. So that's probably what we'll have to do, is I'll just edit videos while the girls are doing school, and then as we come to a place we can upload, then I can just upload everything I've finished. And that's probably the happy medium. Living in a small home, aside from fresh nut milk, fruit, vegetables, all food is dehydrated because it takes up less space and weighs less, so we can grab and go backpacking, etc. Beth, I think that's brilliant. I really do. In fact, my dad told me last night that's what I should do, is I should dehydrate some beef jerky. Yes, thank you for putting the thumbs up, Sharon. Well, and we're glad you like the live one. We like the live one. Beth, that's a good point. We're a family of 7 and living in a 786 square foot house. We got to be smart when we do our food storage. Yep. How about singing together in person? And does anybody play an instrument? I get really hoarse in the RV. The vibration seems to make my voice crack a lot. I have a hard time singing in the RV. We've tried. I'm going to pick up one of my songbooks if I can find it. I may have already packed it, but if I haven't, I'll find it. We took a guitar on this trip, but what turns out is, once again, we had very little downtime. When we weren't doing school, we were working or we were playing with the kids, and so we didn't actually get the guitar out at all. We're thinking about getting a little ukulele to take. That could probably be fun. At this point, though, most of our hours are really taken up with school and meals and exercising. So we might not need it. We don't know. One other thing, I think that a lot of the kids' issues were because they were tied. Tied? Is that John? We did not tie them up. Making overnight oats could save some on propane and heating water. That's very true. So anybody that does know overnight oats, you take your raw oats, and I think some people will soak it in whey, like some water with some yogurt or something, and some will put vinegar, a little bit of vinegar in it, and that would be a good idea. Can you do live shows so you don't have to edit? We could, but they don't get very good views. We do. Our first one that we did is getting amazing views, which is great. And this one will probably get moderately good views. The problem is that my really high view videos that are really paying for the trips are the ones where I sit down and I edit it for 12 hours. It took me 4 hours to take the video, and then it takes me 12, maybe 24 hours of actual editing to get it right. And those ones are the ones that are really paying the bills. So I do have to be able to take it. It takes me several days to do a really good video, and I know sometimes it doesn't look like that because they don't turn out perfect, but they are so much better than when I don't edit them. It makes a huge difference. I like Jerry Lewis. A strum stick. That sounds intriguing. Let's see. See ya, C. Dean. Let's see. Anything else? Mistyped. They weren't able to move from their back seats. What do you mean, honey? They weren't able to move from their back seats. Anyway, I think I'm going to log off. I have a whole 4 more skeins to finish applying for Amy's sweater, and I need to get started on Helios's hat. So I'm going to go, if you would like to support us on our journeys, you can go to patreon.com/dirtpatcheaven, and that link is in here. Thank you, Bonsai. And hey, NW girl. Cookware upside down is drums, because that's not the key to crazy parents. Do we like sprouts? Hey, Mom. We do. We haven't got that far yet. It's at this point, it's a slightly advanced concept, but I did keep all my jars and my lids so that we could do it. So I'm going to go finish up these projects and get some more moving stuff done, because we're supposed to have people here in a couple hours to help move the wood stove. So if you can support our family, make sure, if you do the Patreon, cap the amount, because then if we put up more videos in a month, you're still only, if you cap it and you're like, I want to pay $1 for every video, but you'll cap it and say, but I never want to pay more than $4 a month. Okay? Because I have people that I support on Patreon, and I always cap it. That way, if they do more or less, it just doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to go and scratch my nose some more and get some laundry done and get our house ready for our woofer to come help us and for our renters to be here. See you, Amy. And we'll talk to you later, but only if I can figure out how to turn it off without John here. We'll see if I can do it.